I'm Countryside Officer with Devine Council. You met our Vice Chairman earlier and the Chief Executive, that's my boss. I've been involved now on the elements of the restoration of the canal. The canal's not complete, it's not open to the public yet. By special request, yourselves are getting in today. It's unsafe in parts of it, particularly on a ramp up to a footbridge just down there. So we'll go down a bit of it and you'll get an idea of why it's not open to the public yet. So Johnny, that spoke earlier, is the historian on the canal, and he tells me not the historian on the Devine family or the McKernahan family. You will all sort that out yourselves, maybe through today. So when Johnny, do you want to do a wee bit now then? Maybe Johnny give you a bit of a briefing now. Yeah. So I'll just hand you over now to Johnny, and I'll fill you in with details and bits and pieces as we go along. Johnny?
Okay, thank you. Johnny Durher is my name. I've done a little bit on the canal. This canal has been reconstructed almost a year ago, and there's been problems over getting it opened, over safety. The band's going to be a claim. We think that it should be opened and available actually. But anyway, we're standing here where the first locks were. These locks, and this is where the Devine family lived over here. The large house there has been demolished, I suppose, about 25 years ago probably, or something. And they were these lock keepers for this particular canal stretch. Now, the Devines took over from Kavanagh. There was a James Kavanagh who was apparently appointed lock keeper about the year 1816 as a reward for being a famous horse success with Abercorn or something. So I'm not too sure. It's part of the family folklore. And then Michael Kavanagh, a brother, took over about the 1840s and was the main man in the canal until his death in about 1870. And then it was a Bernard Devine took over at that stage, and then you have a Thomas Devine, and you have a Neil Devine, who was the last man here, and I suppose Neil left here probably about 1970 and moved up to live in the village of Pallamagurry. So that's basically the family connection. Now, the James Kavanagh man, I think from family history suggests that he died down here tragically, that he was coming walking from Pallamagurry and walked, I think, on a winter's night, he was drowned or something in a stream here, or possibly in the canal actually. So one of the tragic figures of the Kavanaghs. Now, the Strabane Canal was built, as I mentioned earlier, in 1796, opened from the River Foyle up to Strabane, a distance of 4.25 miles approximately. And it was seen at the time as a major boost for trade. It was hoped that it would allow the Strabane, it was market to expand greatly. And in the period until 1815, a period when you had the war between Britain and Napoleonic France, there was short-lived prosperity for farming and so on, and the canal was fairly busy in that period. It was exporting crops from Strabane through Derry Port to Britain and so on. After 1815, the canal trade slowed considerably, and it began to meet major economic problems. So much so that by 1820s there was a new company, a group took over the management of it. A group of Strabane traders decided that they would take over. On the building of the canal itself, it's supposed to have cost £9,000 approximately in the 1790s, which seems, I suppose, pennies now, but at that time it was probably a considerable sum. Abercorn, who was the landlord of this whole district, paid £6,000 towards it. So there was another 3,000 wanted to be raised from local people, I suppose merchants, traders. There were about 70 workers employed in the construction of the canal. and it took approximately 4 years. On the opening of the canal on March of 1796, there was a sort of a contest for the fastest boat sailing up the canal from the Foyle to Strabane. Supposed to have been won by a captain, by a boat called Captain Quigley, and it was managed by a Mr. Fleming. And the local newspaper gives a report of the celebrations that night and so on. This was a great victory for Strabane in a sense. Anyway, as I said, by 1820s it had begun to deteriorate. It was difficult to get traders to pay the charges, and the problem with the river, and it's a tidal river at the River Foyle, was that small ships could come up the Foyle during high tide, and they were bypassing the canal, moving up as far as Lifford, and unloading the cargo there and bringing it across the road bridge to Devine. So that was a problem the canal faced. It was in that period. They couldn't control that, and it was something. So there was an attempt made to lower charges by the 1830s, and then in the late 1830s we have the beginning of a major competition in the building of the Great Northern Railway System, and it affects the canal very, very, very much so. After 1850, the canal really can't compete for much of the heavy transport that would be brought from Derry to Strabane and vice versa. So from that period, it begins to go down.